opening up episode 410 of Monster Kid Radio with the song Spook-a-rama. It is from the album Monster Beach Surf Party from Jered Caywood. He's a musician based here in Oregon, just like me. I'm Derek M. Cook, your writer, producer, and host of the podcast devoted to the classic and sometimes not so classic genre cinema of yesteryear. Welcome to the show, and big thanks to Jered Caywood for letting us play his song on this podcast. We're going to play it in its entirety at the end of the show. How's everybody doing? Are you ready for some monster talk? Because I've got it here this week. I'm super stoked because I get to add another horror host to my collection of horror hosts who've been on Monster Kid Radio. This time around, we're going to be talking with California's Lord Blood-Rah. Lord Blood-Rah is somebody that I've been aware of for years. I first heard him on a podcast that's no longer up and running, and I've just been kind of following him ever since. We're friends on Facebook, and really, we wanted to have him on the show for quite some time, but things just kept getting in the way, and life happened, and, well, now it is happening. We've got him on the show, and he's bringing some boys with him, the Bowery Boys, because the Bowery Boys Meet the Monsters is the movie on deck this week. We're going to break this movie down. Of course, there's going to be some spoilers, but really, it's a fun-filled ride, and I can't wait to share that conversation with you, and we'll just let you listen to one of the best laughs in the horror host game. So that's going to be fun. Also, we've got Kenny's Famous Monsters of Filmland segment, so that's coming, and the return of Jeff's Weird Wednesday report. As you recall, Jeff was under the weather, just like a lot of us, not too long ago, and the last Weird Wednesday report came in as an email that somebody else, Christopher R. Mim, read for us. Well, Jeff is back. He called our voicemail line and didn't just give us one, but two Weird Wednesday reports to play here on the show. So we're going to play those back to back, then get into the conversation about the Bowery Boys Meet the Monsters, hear from Kenny, and then Brenda's back too. We've got some feedback to go over here on the show. I'm stoked. I want to get to it right after this.
Doctor, that monkey's head, is it alive?
Oh, yes, of course.
All you would need for me would be a brain. A human brain.
Well, it's hardly that simple.
Buy one. Steal one. I'll do anything.
When the brain is healthy, it will never die. For even severed from its body, it continues to live, to scheme, to plot.
Look!
What must have just happened?
For Carl Broussard, this means fantastic power. Now, once again, he can rule everyone and everybody, make them slaves to his venomous will. For inhuman strength, incredible might, unnatural powers, the man without a body will make your blood run cold. For it is without a doubt, without an equal, in thrills, excitement, and unbearable suspense.
From award-winning author Stephen D. Sullivan, White Zombie, a new novel based on the classic motion picture.
What do you see? Neil asked. Madeline peered into the wine glass, pretending to be a fortune teller, and for a moment her head reeled. She did see something within the depths of the cup. Terrible dark eyes staring up at her, boring into her mind, the eyes of that awful man they'd encountered in the road. You see? She felt dizzy now, really dizzy, and her throat was tight, as if cold hands were closing around her neck. What is it? Neil asked, concerned. The eyes burned into her. She couldn't breathe. I see, she managed to gasp. Death.
Available now in print and all ebook formats. Find it on Amazon, Smashwords, Drive-Thru Fiction, and other quality outlets. Also available in a special edition, including the complete movie script. Grab White Zombie before it grabs you. Details at sdsullivan.com.
Voyages to the outer universe a reality. satellite space stations in operation for landing and refueling.
Apparently we have some deadly neighbors in outer space.
Captain, it's heading toward us.
And now the story of the fantastic adventure that befalls mankind's most daring crew of space explorers.
Not a sound. Not even the hum of an insect. Is this a dead planet?
Landing on an unknown planet, they are captured by long-limbed beauties. When they say, "Take me to your leader," and they take them to a creature like this, you know they're on planet Venus. And the queen of outer space is Zsa Zsa Gabor. The most talked about woman in the world knows what she wants on Venus, too.
Then we're the only men on the whole planet?
Yes.
Wow.
You'll see the revolt that brings the planet under the domination of strangely masked females who hate and fear the male animal.
Let me kill her now.
You're not only a queen, you're a woman too. Let me see your face.
The savage horrors of fearsome mutated beasts. The war of the sexes, when voluptuous Venusians give battle to spacemen from Earth. The destructive might of incredible space rays that stop man from returning to Earth.
Prepare for maximum acceleration.
Hi, Derek and the Monster Kids. This is Jeff Polier calling in with a Weird Wednesday report from the Joy Cinema. The movie on 28th February was El Barón del Terror, known in America as The Brainiac. The basic premise of The Brainiac feels like a common one. Somebody in a distantly past time is killed by zealots, swears vengeance on their descendants, and returns in modern time to kill people who had nothing to do with the original crime. In this case, the aggrieved party is Baron Vitellius Despera, and he's being burned alive in 1661. He names the hooded figures of the Inquisition present and swears to kill their bloodline in 300 years. His only defender in 1661 was his friend Marcos, who was tortured just for being a character witness in the Baron's favor. True to his word, Despera returns in 1961. Conveniently, each Inquisitor seems to only have one descendant, and they all live in the same city. In this modern era, Despera uses the same name, but poses as someone visiting from another country. He uses his title to lure his intended victims in close. Along the way, he also kills seemingly unrelated people. Oh, and did I mention he shapeshifts into a vampiric creature? While it isn't outright stated, it's not unreasonable to presume that Despera is an alien who assumes human form. The very name Despera means of stars. There's a comet passing at his death that also heralds his return. When the movie began, I found him sympathetic. It's quite likely the charges of the Inquisition were trumped up. Please pardon the phrasing. In 1961, however, he is a ruthless killer, savagely murdering people who had done nothing wrong to him. This isn't a great movie. Like I said, the Baron quickly goes from sympathetic to despicable. I could also have done without the buffoon that's the assistant to the chief of police. I'll call again soon with another Weird Wednesday report. In the meantime, be good, have fun, and watch movies. Hi, Derek and the Monster Kids. This is Jeff Polier calling in with a Weird Wednesday report from the Joy Cinema. The movie on 6th March was the 1932 genuine classic, White Zombie, starring Bela Lugosi and his intense stare. In Haiti, Madeline has arrived to marry her love, Neil. On the ship to Haiti, she met Charles Beaumont, a plantation owner who fell in love with her. Beaumont offers Neil a job and to make all arrangements for the wedding. These are just excuses to be near and try and win over Madeline. Wanting her no matter the cost, he goes to Lugosi's character, Legendere, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, a man feared and despised in Haiti for his voodoo powers, including the ability to raise the dead as subservient zombies. Legendre provides Beaumont with a powder that will kill Madeline and make her ready for resurrection if he so chooses. On the evening of the wedding, Madeline does refuse Beaumont, and he goes through with the poison. She lives through the ceremony and dies at dinner. Time passes and Neil is a shattered man. Legendre raises Madeline, now a soulless zombie, that wants to keep her for himself, poisoning Beaumont with the same powder. Neil and a priest find Madeline, Legendre, and Legendre's other zombies. The zombies, unthinking, are tricked into walking off of a parapet. Beaumont, as a final action, aids in saving Neil and Madeline, and Legendre also falls to his death. With the Voodoo Master dead, Madeline's soul returns to her. Far from what we think of as zombies today, the creatures in this movie are pitiable. They're the victims of murder, their animated corpses being forced to serve an evil man. This is a truly good movie, and one that every monster kid should see sometime. This was at least my second time watching it, and I'd gladly see it again. I'll call again soon with another Weird Wednesday report. In the meantime, be good, have fun, and watch movies.
Trapped! Trapped! Trapped!
They're trapped in a whirlpool of shrieking fear. From the most fiendish idea ever conceived by the human brain.
The Brainiac!
And it has a friend. She was beautiful, desirable, and not altogether human.
The curse of the crying women.
Together they will trap you in a whirlpool of horror. But if you live through it, you will never forget.
The Brainiac and the curse of the crying women.
Hello, Christopher. What insanity are you up to today?
Oh, hey, Lydia. I'm downloading some movies.
What? People are always telling me that's illegal.
Not these. They're all public domain. Oh, look, Rescue from Gilligan's Island.
Well, let me see what you're doing. Oh, you're at archive.org. Well, they have thousands of films, TV shows, commercials, radio shows, and books available.
Yeah, but there are so many. I wish there was a podcast or something that would discuss these things. You know, give us an idea of what's worth the time.
Christopher, there is. We do one.
Oh, that's right. We host Orphan Entertainment. Once a month, we pick something from archive.org and review and discuss it. That sure is nice of us.
Sure. Why don't you click over to orphan-entertainment.jonja.net and remind yourself a little more about the show.
Will do. So let's see. That's orphan-entertainment.jonja.net. Hey, can we review the Gilligan's Island movie sometime?
We'll see, Christopher. We'll see.
From Haiti, land of the voodoo, comes the most infamous cult of all. Bela Lugosi as Murder Legendre.
I see death.
Master of the undead damned. The sinister power behind the white zombie.
Zombies? Yes. They are my servants.
This soul killer takes men from their graves to be his slaves. His instruments of terror, and now this fiend plots to possess a woman.
Only a pinpoint, a silver wand, in a glass of wine, or perhaps a flower.
Keep it, monsieur. Keep it. You may change your mind.
Not Dead? Are you mad? I saw her die. The doctor signed the certificate. I saw them bury her.
Captive in the borderland between life and death. Her brain drained of the life spark. The white zombie obeys the unholy commands of her demon master. As mindless creatures carry out his cursed will, terror explodes in horror and heartquake.
Zombie! Allez! Allez!
Never eyes so evil, never powers so potent, never magic so black. Bela Dracula Lugosi, as the master of the white zombie.
This is Count Vlad, but you may recognize me by my more familiar name, Count Dracula, and I'm here to offer you a friendly warning. Derek and his guests often get excited, and occasionally this results in revealing key plot points of the movies they're discussing. In your parlance, you might call these revelations spoilers. You know how the children of the night, monster kids, can get sometimes. So consider yourself warned, and don't come begging to me to kill them for their transgressions afterward. I have more pressing issues to take care of, like that pesky Van Helsing.
I love talking to horror hosts, and this time I am contacting a horror host from my humble abode here at Gravesend Manor. We are talking with the horror host, Lord Blood-Rah. How you doing, man?
My lords and ladies, I am thrilled to be here on Monster Kid Radio. It's been a dream of mine ever since I heard the first episode of this great podcast, and I'm just honored to be here. How you doing, Derek?
I'm doing great. And listeners, this is just a real treat. I've been told by, and now more than one listener has told me this, that Lord Blood-Rah's got one of the best laughs in the horror host industry. So this is awesome. Now, you're based out of California?
Yes, the East Bay of California, San Francisco Bay Area.
Where can people watch you? Are you on TV, on the internet?
Yeah, I'm on broadcast TV in the Peoria, Illinois area, Saturday nights at 10 p.m., and in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Saturday nights at 10 p.m. In Peoria, I'm on My 59, and in Fort Wayne, I'm on My TV Fort Wayne. The best thing to do, because I'm on a variety of Roku and streaming channels and broadcast TV, the best thing to do is to go to lordbloodrah.com and go to the TV schedules, and you can find all the different places you can catch the show.
I was going to ask you if you were on any of the Roku.
Yeah, the Monster Channel, the Vortex, there's a few of them I'm on there. And there's one called ZPTV. It's not all horror hosts, but I run episodes there that are on demand anytime.
Oh, okay.
And the other ones I'm on kind of a rotating schedule, the Vortex and a lot of the other ones. Thank God for streaming. It is the way horror hosts can reach the most fans possible. It's great.
Listeners, if you don't have a Roku device, they're not that expensive. You are missing out. There's so much free content out there.
Oh, yeah.
So good, so good. I've been living without my Roku for the past 3 or 4 months because we had to rearrange our bedroom. I can't wait to hook it back up.
Yeah, definitely. Another great channel is OSI 74, run by Mr. Lobo. That's a great, not only horror hosts, but all kinds of weird and wonderful programming goes on there. It's great stuff.
Exactly. And I think they also stream online as well. It's just great that
I think so.
We have the technology now that we can watch horror hosts from all over. Although, why are you on broadcast TV in the middle of the country, but you're based out of California? How did that work out?
That is a wonderful question. So I started the show, it was about 7 years ago. I started the TV show. I've been horror hosting for 10 years. I started doing live shows and then got the opportunity to do the TV show some years later. So I started doing the TV show on local public access here in California. And even before I was doing horror hosting, I was contributing to a podcast called Drunken Zombie, which was a great old, late lamented horror podcast in Peoria, Illinois. And one of the guys who was part of the Drunken Zombie crew, Brian Wolford, works for My 59 in Peoria. And their horror host, who at the time I believe they were running Wolfman Max Chiller Theater. And he retired. He got out of horror hosting for a while. He's back in now. He's got a new show. But at the time he had stopped. And Brian wrote me and said, hey, you know, our horror host show is gone. You know, send us an episode and we'll evaluate it. And I said, okay, yeah, sure. I'll send it. And I sent it to him. And I'm thinking, no, there's no chance. And 2 hours later, he sent me back, yeah, you're on Saturday nights at midnight. Like, whoa, okay. I guess I got to get serious about this now. You know, wow, I'm on broadcast TV now. So from there, I got the Fort Wayne, Indiana station on the strength of how I did in Peoria. And I'm looking for more broadcast stations, but I've been expanding primarily in streaming outlets now.
The Drunken Zombie podcast is where I first heard you. I used to listen to that as well, and it's been gone now for a few years. I don't know if the episodes are still available anywhere online, but you were also involved in their Drunken Zombie Film Festival, I believe, weren't you?
Oh, yeah. I think I hosted that for, I want to say, 6 or 7 years straight. Yeah, that was always so fun. I look forward to that every year just because you never knew what you were going to see, except you knew what you were going to see was going to be new and fresh and independent and generally a lot better than a lot of the horror that was coming out of Hollywood. You know, a lot more imaginative and breaking a lot more ground than the stuff that comes out of Hollywood. There's still murmurings it might happen again, and I hope it does. If it does, I'm there. I'll gladly host it again. I love doing it.
Oh, wow. So do you still do live events as well?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Well, the way I became Lord Blood-Rah was we have some very dear friends who own the Chenard Winery in Castro Valley. And introduced my friend Damien, the winemaker, to Plan 9 from Outer Space. And for some reason, that movie just lit a fire in him. He loved it. And he didn't know films like that existed. He fell in love with it. And he said, well, we should show this at the winery. And I said, yeah, but you got to do a show around it, man. You got to have a host, you know, and stuff like that. So I found somebody to host. And there was some kind of miscommunications between him and the host. It didn't quite work out the way he wanted. But the show came off, and the show was a success. So the next day, he's over at my place with me and my wife, Chris, and we're sitting there having a glass of wine. And he said, I want to do the shows. I want to do the shows on a yearly basis. Do you know any other hosts who could do it? And I said, no, you know, I really don't. And my wife turned to me and said, why don't you do it? And I had no answer. So, you know, there was a clap of thunder and a wolf howled and Lord Blood-Rah was born. That was 10 years ago. I've been doing shows at the Chenard Winery ever since, along with sci-fi days at the Ream Theater and live events at various other locations, plus doing yearly shows out in Peoria and Fort Wayne now.
Oh, okay. So you still go out there to do stuff?
Oh, yeah. I'll fly out there and do live shows. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's really fun. I love sharing these films that I love with people that love them. It's just wonderful. It's great. Well, you know, I watch horror movies for a profession now. It's wonderful.
That's the dream job. I'm going to, man, can you give me a gig like that? That'd be great.
Well, notice I said for a profession, not a living.
Oh, I see.
Big difference. Big difference.
Did you have a horror host growing up?
Yes. I grew up watching Bob Wilkins of Creature Features.
Oh, there you go.
Here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Yeah, Bob Wilkins, and then later, when he retired, John Stanley took over. I met Bob a couple of times at conventions.
Oh, wow.
Great guy, wonderful guy. And I know John Stanley to this day. John Stanley and I are friends. We appear together at conventions and things, and have worked together on stage and at conventions. He's just a great guy.
Oh, right on.
Oh, yes. Sweet man, John Stanley. And also in the Bay Area, we had The Ghoul was syndicated out here for a while. So we caught him on Saturday afternoons as well. And he was really fun. He was very enjoyable, energetic, crazy energy to his show. That was fantastic.
Very cool. Well, like I said, I'm going to make sure there's a link in the show notes to your website. I want people to know about you and what you're doing. And again, listeners, get that Roku so you can find him on at least 2 or 3 of these shows that or channels that stream these shows, because it's just good stuff. It's fun stuff. So we are going to talk about a movie here on the show.
Yep.
However, there is something we do with every person that comes on the show these days. For new listeners who don't know or haven't been paying attention, we do have a game here called the Classic 5. I've got a deck of cards here, and each one of these cards has a this or that, what movie do you like better style question. There are no wrong answers. I know I just called it a game, but really it's a conversation starter. Lord Blood-Rah, are you ready to play?
You know, I've been wanting to do this ever since you started doing it, and now that I'm doing it, I'm sure all of my monster knowledge is going to fly right out the window. But let's do it.
All right, here we go. Card number 1. What 2 classic science fiction movies would make the perfect double feature?
Oh, I actually hosted it. It was The Deadly Mantis and Them.
Ooh.
Yeah, we did a giant bug night at a local theater. Just the giant mantis and them. It was a match made in heaven. It was really fun show. A friend of mine made a giant mechanical ant too that attacked the audience. That was a good time.
Very cool. Very cool. So no tarantula in there, huh? Just go mantis and them.
Mantis and them. Yeah. They seem to fit together better thematically the way it felt, because tarantula is more of a. Always look at that as more of a not hard sci-fi, but. Well, it's a giant bug movie, yes, but it's more sci-fi in its approach to the monster. The monster is made, as opposed to just radiation did it.
Oh, okay.
It's always like that. It's radiation. You know, you got a giant bug, it's got to be radiation. You know.
Okay. Well, card number 2. Who do you prefer, Christopher Lee or Peter Cushing?
Oh.
One of the hardest cards in the deck.
Oh. I'm going to go Peter Cushing. Yeah. There was a charm to everything he did, even when he was being the most evil of Dr. Frankenstein's, you know? There was just this even though he was being incredibly evil on screen, you wanted to know this guy. You know what I mean? He had that kind of, like, similar to Vincent Price. He had that twinkle in his eye at all times. And I really love Peter Cushing.
I'm on Team Cushing here, but I think listeners know that by now, so...
Yeah.
Another reason why we can be friends.
Gotta love Christopher Lee, of course.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
No disrespect.
No disrespect at all. No.
All right, card number 3. Fritz or Igor?
Oh. I gotta go Igor. Fritz was funnier. Fritz was a lot funnier. You know, in Frankenstein, there's that scene where he's got to run down the stairs and answer the door, and he's a hot mess on wheels. He's Fritz, a little hunchback guy. Coming back up the stairs, he stops for a moment and just pulls up his sock and goes right on again. Love that moment. I love that, just that quick moment of grooming by this little deformed little guy. But, you know, the Igor is probably my some days second, most days third favorite Lugosi performance. He does an amazing job as Igor.
Well, I agree. Again, another reason why we're friends. But even though there are no wrong answers, I wouldn't have held it against you if you said Fritz. All right. Okay. card number 4. Which movie do you prefer? I Was a Teenage Werewolf or I Was a Teenage Frankenstein?
I Was a Teenage Werewolf.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I Was a Teenage Werewolf, the most terrifying picture of our time. I Was a Teenage Werewolf, fantastic, bewildering, a motion picture to stand beside the greatest horror stories of all time. I Was a Teenage Werewolf.
It's a lot more interesting and unique. It's a more unique take on the werewolf thing. He's not bitten by a werewolf. The inner, like, kind of raging hormonal teenage beast within him is released by hypnosis, and he becomes a werewolf that way. I've always liked that approach to it. It's a good movie about teenage angst for the 1950s, whereas, I Was a Teenage Frankenstein is fun, but it's dead teenagers reassembled into the Frankenstein monster. It's okay, but I think Teenage Werewolf is much better.
So I go back and forth depending on what day of the week it is, so.
There you go. Yeah, there's that.
Okay.
There's that. And all of these are dependent on mood, right?
True. True.
Usually.
All right, final card. If you could have been on set during the production of a classic Universal monster movie, which one would it have been?
Oh, I got to say Bride of Frankenstein. To stand in those sets. Yeah, to stand and watch that, to see that laboratory scene when you first see the bride with Pretorius on one side and Frankenstein on the other in that gown, and the monster coming down those stairs behind her. Oh, yeah, definitely Bride of Frankenstein.
Good pick.
Thank you, sir.
Well, that is the classic 5. How do you feel, man?
I made it!
Yes.
I made it! I remembered the titles of movies, and I remembered everything. I was so happy. I was so happy I didn't. What? Who are you again? What are we talking about here?
I don't know. Wrong number.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, well, that was a lot of fun. I love playing the Classic 5, especially with people that I haven't played it with before. I mean, I feel like I kind of knew where you would go with some of these because, like I said, I've heard you on other podcasts and I watch your show when I can. But, it's always fun to get new perspectives like them and Deadly Mantis. I wouldn't have put those two together, but when you said that, it makes sense.
Yeah, they're two kind of classic giant bug films that have a slightly schlocky. Well, you know what it is too. They got some slight schlock to them, but they've also got the classic scientific explanations.
Mm-hmm.
With them, it's seeing the little schoolroom film of the ants fighting all the time, and then with the deadly mantis is explaining what a deadly mantis is. And they're always whatever insect is made giant, it is always the most deadly killer in the world. Yeah.
Yep.
The mantis, the spider, the ant, the shrew. Yeah. Anyway,
I'm partial to the giant leeches myself, but
the giant leeches. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a fun one. I posted that too.
There are no giant bugs in the movie that we're talking about, though.
There's everything else.
Yeah, we've got what? So we've got somebody who says she's a vampire, although we don't really see her do any real vampire things. It looks like there are 2 mad scientist types.
That's right. That's right. We've got a gorilla. We've got a robot. We've got a man-eating plant. We've got a Jekyll and Hyde potion that turns a couple of people into monsters. This movie has it all. It is all of the old dark house, haunted house tropes thrown against the wall. And we're talking about the 1954's The Bowery Boys Meet the Monsters.
You'll get those hysterical, hilarious horrors when you join those Bowery Boys as overnight guests in a mansion of merry maniacs.
We just want your heads.
Well, if you just said that in a quick... Our heads?
Uncle Anton, the scientific stoop.
Would you like a high cut or a low cut, sir?
Oh, I'd like a low cut.
Uncle Derek, the medical madman.
What is it you're trying to say?
Help!
Cousin Francine, the fluff with the stuff.
I mean business.
Aunt Amelia, who's no camellia. The butler Grisson, he's gruesome. The family tree, a man-eating honeysuckle.
Boy, I feel just like a space cadet. This will register his brain potential.
My friend here has a vacuum-packed head.
The Bowery Boys get the heebies, the jeebies, the willies, and the shakes, while you get the laughs of the year.
Gentlemen, I have a suggestion. 50-50.
No. Routine 6, Satch.
What a mishmash of monsters here, but I loved it. It's a fun romp. If listeners aren't familiar with the Bowery Boys movies, how would you describe what they do?
They're very similar to, and this was on purpose, very similar to Abbott and Costello films, in that there's basically a main comedy team, Leo Gorcey and Hunts Hall, Slip and Satch, but they're surrounded by this kind of coterie of friends. They're just kind of everyman characters. They're guys hanging out at the malt shop in the 1940s and into the 50s, and they just go off on various wild adventures. We had talked about this a little earlier. Mm-hmm. The Bowery Boys, from 1946 was when the Bowery Boys proper started, to 1958, in 12 years, they made 48 Bowery Boys movies.
That is insane.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? 48, and they, of course, so 4 films a year. These were turned out, assembly line style extremely quickly. Mm-hmm. That's an impossible thing to think about. Is 48 films over 12 years, and some of them were monster related. They did one called Spook Busters, Spook Chasers, which I think were very similar films. Masterminds is probably one of the more unusual ones. Satch, who is the Hunts Hall character, kind of goofy, lanky, more clownish character to Leo Gorcey's more straight man, develops a toothache and can read minds when he's in this kind of trance because he has a toothache.
Of course, yeah, I mean, sure.
And a mad scientist hears about this and, of course, wants his brain to put into his monster, which was played by Glenn Strange.
Oh, okay.
In that movie. Yeah, it's kind of a fun film. It's a fun film. But, again, none of these other monster-related Bowery Boys films had nearly the pound per pound the amount of monsters and creatures as the Bowery Boys Meet the Monsters.
They did bump into Bela Lugosi at one point. I do know, was it Spooks Run Wild?
Well, yeah, but
that wasn't technically,
They were the Dead End Kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did 2 films with Lugosi. They did Spooks Run Wild and Ghosts on the Loose. Mm-hmm. The Bowery Boys originally started in 1935 as the Dead End Kids. And it was from this movie called Dead End with Humphrey Bogart. And for some reason, these kids, and then they were like streetwise punks who were always getting into, street fights and everything. These kids stole the movie. And from Humphrey Bogart, that's quite a feat. So the studio decided to make a whole slew of Dead End Kids movies. Then later, they left that studio. I think they demanded more money. Was picked up by Monogram Studios, and they became the East Side Kids.
Okay.
So it was actually the East Side Kids were the ones that met Bela Lugosi. Okay. That's Spooks Run Wild and Ghosts on the Loose were Bela Lugosi films.
Okay. The the Bowery Boys was another studio then?
The Bowery Boys was Allied Artists.
Okay.
Again, Leo Gorcey, who played Slip, kind of ringleader of the group, wanted more money, and Monogram said, "We're Monogram, we don't have any more money." So they left and all went to Allied Artists and became the Bowery Boys. Yeah, so it's quite a long history of this essentially same group of people going through these changes as they moved from studio to studio. And their characters changed again. They were young punk street fighters when they were the Dead End Kids and the East Side Kids too, but then by the Bowery Boys they were older, so they couldn't be. It's scarier if they're still fighting in the streets at that age.
A completely different kind of movie.
Yes, that's right. Oh, here's one odd thing that I noticed.
Okay.
One of the Bowery Boys, oddly enough, this actor does not appear in the Bowery Boys Meet the Monsters, was Gabriel Dell.
Okay.
Now, Gabriel Dell has a really strong monster connection. Do you remember the record album that was sold in the back of Famous Monsters of Filmland, Famous Monsters Speak?
I do know the album, yeah.
That's Gabriel Dell.
Oh, okay.
He's doing Lugosi on the Dracula side and the Frankenstein monster on the other side.
Huh.
That's his voice. He does a dead-on Lugosi, an amazing Lugosi. As a matter of fact, he used to do it on the Steve Allen show in the 60s. He would come on and do a more comedic Lugosi, but when he does it straight, man. When I was a kid, I thought that was Lugosi.
Yeah. Oh, when we get done recording here, I'm going to go try to dig it up and check it out. I want to hear it now.
It's fun.
Very cool. Huh.
Yeah.
You know, I was looking at the filmography of like the Dead End Kids and the East Side and whatever and all them, and it does look like more than once, not just with the monster movie, but more than once, if Abbott and Costello did something that was successful, there would be a kind of sort of knockoff or another version of it with the Bowery Boys or the Dead End Kids, like Jungle Gents after Africa Screams and things along those lines. They seem to be taking a lot of notes from Abbott and Costello, but they always had their own identity because, I mean, it's Hunt's Hall. I mean,
right.
He's not really Costello. He's not really Abbott. He's his own thing. You know, the back and forth with him and Gorcey. If I had to say one of them was a straight man, I'd say Gorcey was. But Gorcey mangled English like nothing. Mangled English like crazy.
Especially in this film.
Oh, yeah.
I noticed that this film seemed to have a lot more of that kind of humor. It's sprinkled through like a lot of the other ones, but Bowery Boys Meet the Monsters, it's almost constant. When the movie opens, the boys are in Louie's sweet shop where they always hang out.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball comes sailing in through the window, hits Louie on the head, of course, without seriously hurting him. That never happens in real life. And they're sitting there, and a cop brings in this young boy, and Slip looks over and says, "Herbie Wilkins in the recoils of the law." And that's one of his lighter mutilations of the English language later on.
Oh, yeah. Let me regurgitate when he's trying to reiterate something and then things along those lines. They're just...
Right, exactly. Exactly,
just,
yeah.
And I made... I don't know if it was a mistake or not, but I thought, you know what? Just for fun, I'm going to turn on the subtitles. Oh, boy.
Oh, nice.
And, yeah, I mean, whoever did the subtitling made a point of making sure that all the words he used were the ones that turned up in the subtitles. There was no corrections made. So I got to see the regurgitates, and that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. But there were so many of them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I didn't think of putting on subtitles. I should do that.
Well, you mentioned the setup. It starts in Louis' sweet shop. And Louis was played by Gorcey's father, wasn't he?
Yeah. Bernard Gorcey. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, the only reason that Leo Gorcey quit some 48 movies, or actually 47 movies later, is because his father passed away. And Leo he couldn't do it anymore. So they made one more movie with Hunt's Hall without Leo Gorcey in 1948, and it just didn't fly. And by then there were 48 films too, so you got to think it was running out of steam at some point.
Yeah. At what point do you just say, you know what? I've worn this hat long enough.
We never got the Bowery Boys go to the moon, though. The Bowery Boys in space. We never got.
Man, that would have been fun.
It would have been fun. We never got that, though.
Although I wonder what kind of, I don't know. Hunt's Hall in an astronaut suit is kind of terrifying.
Yes, indeed. That's right.
So you mentioned the baseball coming through, and the plot of this story, this film, is not super deep.
Oh, no.
The reason the ball is going through the windows is because there's nowhere for the kids to play baseball. So they get this bright idea. There's this plot of land owned by the Gravesend family.
Gravesend, that's right.
We're going to ask their permission to use this lot. And Slip and Satch go out and fun ensues.
That's right. Louis says, "Why don't you call them on the phone?"
Oh, that's right.
See if they want to sell the land. And Slip, is only Slip could say, says, "The Gravesends have never been indemnified with charitable projectiles."
Well,
exactly. You almost need a decoding manual to go through and understand what he's talking about.
Well, at first, as the movie continues, you finally start to kind of get in sync with him, and that's terrifying. But
it is. It is. You're right.
And I love the name, the Gravesend family. Gravesend. I love it. It's just it's brilliant. I've never heard it before anywhere else. I think it's great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Gravesend. They drive out to Gravesend Manor, and of course in a thunderstorm. Has to be a thunderstorm.
Of course.
And they meet the mad scientist brothers, Derek and Anton.
Yeah, I tried not to take offense when I realized there was a Derek in the movie you suggested, but okay.
Yeah, well, I'd totally forgotten until I watched the movie again recently. It's like, oh, there's a Derek. Oh my God, I forgot about it.
Well, and speaking of that Derek, he's played by John Daner, who has a crazy career. He started as an animator for Disney.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then he moved into acting, which is just all over the place. When you think about somebody's Hollywood career, I would not make that jump.
Wow, yeah, I didn't know that. He's one of those, hey, it's that guy actors.
Yep.
You know, you've seen him in everything. Seen him in absolutely everything. Movies, TV, everything.
And he's got a great look.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. Made a good mad scientist, as did the little guy. They had kind of an Abbott and Costello mad scientist thing going on.
You know, they did.
You know, yeah.
And the other one, Anton, that was played by Lloyd Corrigan, who I don't really know much about. Although if you look him up on the Internet Movie Database, the one picture they have is an unfortunate picture of one white guy and then 4 people in blackface around him. So I don't know, you know,
the times.
I know, I don't know the history there, but...
Right. Yeah, it was the times.
No blackface in this movie. So yeah, put that behind us.
No. Everything else, but no blackface.
Yeah, that's true. Man, I gotta talk about the butler. That guy. Oh, man, gruesome.
Gruesome. It's gruesome, sir. No.
He's great.
Yeah. Oh, he is wonderful. He's like a younger Lurch. He's great.
I was getting definite Lurch vibes off this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Just the way he's built, the tall, lanky, skinny, and the way he spoke. Very Lurch-like. I don't know if there was an intentional inspiration there or not when it came time to do Lurch, but that was just great. His name's Paul Wexler. He was actually born here in Portland, Oregon.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know much more about him other than I really would like to see more with him because he was just phenomenal.
I know I've seen him in other things, and for some reason I want to say more television than film.
Sure.
For some reason. Yeah, he was great. He was just kind of wonderful, lanky, straight butler that is made a fool of often, and kind of really creepy in his own way too.
Yeah. He does get creepier though, because at one point they do feed him a tonic.
Yes,
the Jekyll and Hyde formula, like you said. What did you think of that mask?
Oh, it was 1954 Halloween mask. You know, that it looks like they put the same mask on both of them because later Satch drinks it and becomes a monster too. And it looks like they just put the same mask on both of them, little makeup around the eyes, and that's it. You know, it's standard kind of Halloween boogeyman, long hair, big teeth, kind of ape-like a little bit. You know, it's fun.
Sure.
It was fun. No great, nothing that, Jack Pierce would have done. But
yeah, I mean, it was no Abbott and Costello meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I mean, it was, it served its purpose. And the way they do the transition, I thought, they couldn't do a stop motion. They couldn't do a lap dissolve. Let's just wipe from, he's wearing the mask, wipe the screen. No, he's not. So, yeah.
Well, hey, Derek, 48 movies in 12 years. They don't have time to slow dissolve. They don't have time. We're lucky it wasn't a jump cut.
True.
They got to turn these things out. They don't have time for a slow artistic process.
Despite that, though, I felt like the gorilla was great, and I know part of it's because back then the gorilla men had their own suits, and they would go from film to film to film. Cosmos, the gorilla, played by Steve Calvert, who was a gorilla man, and I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, great, just kind of classic. This is probably the only podcast you can say this on, but great classic gorilla performance. Really, just kind of good, solid gorilla man.
A quick look at his filmography. It looks like he did at least 10 different films in a gorilla suit, which, good for him, man. He's a gorilla man working.
Yeah, that's when you could have a career doing that. I don't know if that's the case anymore. You don't have as many gorillas in films anymore, and I miss that. You just don't. Back in the day, every mad scientist had a gorilla in a cage. They all did.
You know what this movie needed? A gorilla. That's what.
That's it. That's exactly it. Get a gorilla in here. We got a mad scientist. We got to have a gorilla.
That's right. We have the gorilla, and then we also have a robot named Gorog.
Gorog, yes.
It's an interesting looking robot. Again, we're talking about budget and all that, but it served its purpose.
I couldn't decide whether it was flimsy sheet metal or cardboard covered in tinfoil. I'm not sure. Probably the latter. But it's kind of a Saturday morning cereal type of robot. Kind of a classic squared head, squared body, tall, pipe duct arms, and classic look.
Sure.
Classic kids robot look. Yeah.
I mean, when you see it, you're like, oh yeah, this is definitely of that era. It has a neat look, I think. And what I like about it is that they did go out of their way to make it look much taller, much bigger than a human. And I know, the headpiece and all that. There was no head in that headpiece. But they did build it up to where it was much bigger. And I did appreciate them trying to change the human form in that way a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Probably didn't need to make it as tall as it did because he kept knocking his own head off. But, that was intentional. I'm sure.
Well, that was a plot point.
I know.
Remember, Anton built the robot and was determined to make the robot work, but his brother Derek disagreed and said, no, that thing is never going to think for its own. It needs a human head on top of it. You need a human head on top of the robot to make the robot think, therefore it won't knock its own head off. Go with it, it's mad science. But
of course.
Now, Derek wanted to go a totally different direction and put a human brain into the gorilla, which he said was the largest anthropoid gorilla in captivity. Really?
Oh, okay.
Was it? All right.
Science.
Science. I could swear I've seen bigger, but all right. He's just bragging. My gorilla's bigger than yours. Just bragging about it.
So we have two creations that could use some human brains, and two humans have shown up at Gravesend Manor. You do the math, listeners. You know what's going to happen here. Although there are other monsters and other things here that have designs on the boys as well. So there's a little bit of, well, I want the plump one from my man-eating plant. Well, I'm a vampire and I want this one, So they're kind of arguing about who's going to get who, and Grissom is helping out, and it's just kind of a fun romp. I've seen some knockoff Abbott and Costello type movies. This one's probably one of the best.
I think so. I mean, again, it's no Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein by far as quality or anything like that. But it's got some good laughs in it. It's a total mishmash of all the kind of Halloween elements of the old Dark House films. This would be a great film to show at Halloween. This is a great Halloween film.
I think so.
Yeah, this is a wonderful kind of, especially for kids. This would be, for young people, be a great Halloween film. Sure. By the way, let's not forget that the old lady with man-eating plant, Amelia, was played by Ellen Corbett, Grandma Walton herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grandma Walton, no.
Yeah.
Who knew she had a man-eating plant in the basement,
And Ellen Corby is delightful in this. She's just great. Oh,
yeah, she's so sweet and just so nice. She's just trying to feed her pet.
I want the plump one. Yeah,
I want the plump one. Yes, exactly. And she seasons him with salt and puts a little garnish on him. Tries to take him to the plant.
Sure. Why not? What did you think of the man-eating plant?
Oh, it was pretty terrible. I mean, it was a giant rubber, but again, how much time did they have to put this thing together? But it's this kind of rubber trunk with, I think it had 4 limbs for arms that kind of moved in a kind of limited way, and this big kind of round rubbery mouth, perfect for fitting these actors' heads in and things like that. It worked. I mean, it worked along with this film,
Sure.
It was fine. It was fine.
It was no Tabonga, but...
no Tabonga, no.
I think it served its purpose, and I think having it up against the wall the way that did probably was the better choice, so you didn't have to see the backside of it.
Oh, yeah. I had to. I'm sure that thing was puppeted on the other side of the wall.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. This is a lower budget film, but they don't hesitate to break a few things here and there. And from what I understand, the Bowery boys were pretty rowdy anyway, especially when they were younger, and would get kicked off sets and lots because they were causing trouble and breaking things. But they bust through walls, they bust through doors, there's the windows breaking, and they do some damage.
They do, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, all of it's breakaway. Well,
sure.
They almost, I don't know if you noticed, they almost knock down a wall when they're trying to break through a door. And the door's not supposed to give, and you can see the entire wall just wants to give way. Yeah, they almost break the entire door seal out and everything. Quite a bit of havoc in this film, and of course, everything that you would expect to happen in this movie, given the elements, happens. You got a robot, you got a gorilla. Of course, they're going to fight.
Sure,
right? At some point, the robot and the gorilla have to fight. The boys have to be captured. They've got to come very close to losing their heads, quite literally. Amelia's plant gets her hands on at least one of the Bowery boys and almost eats him. Satch has to drink the potion,
of course,
to become a monster.
Of course.
You can't really spoil this movie because you know what's going to happen from the beginning, because everything is just kind of laid out. Yeah, here's the joke set up 45 minutes earlier, and here's the joke.
The movie's not very long. It packs a lot of just goofy, spooky fun into its small package. I'm sure part of it had to do with the director, who I don't really know a heck of a lot about. I know he did some genre work. He did do some Bowery Boys films as well, but I also understand that he was almost accidentally nominated for an Oscar. Have you heard this story?
I had heard that. I don't know much about him either. I know that he was instrumental in doing a lot of the sound effects for the Three Stooges.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he created this process or whatever, but he would throw the sound effects in whenever there was a slap or, hit on the head. He would throw in the bell sound or whatever. That became such an integral part of the Three Stooges that he worked on a lot of the Three Stooges films. But I hadn't heard the thing about him getting an Oscar as a director.
He didn't quite get the Oscar. What happened was he had a movie called High Society that came out the same year. Another movie called High Society starring Bing Crosby and Grace Kelly came out. The Academy wanted to nominate the screenplay for the Crosby-Kelly High Society, but sent it to him instead by accident.
Oh.
Now, he owned up to it, and apparently it was all a big jokey, all in fun kind of thing, and he was cool with it. But I think that's... he almost won or got nominated for an Oscar.
Oh, I'm glad he had a good sense of humor about it. I'm glad he was like, okay.
Yeah.
It's not...
But it looks like he did, like I said, a few other pieces of genre work. He did World Without End, which is actually a really good movie as well, and Return of the Fly.
Oh, he directed that. I didn't know that.
But like you said, he also did a lot of Three Stooges. He was kind of a journeyman director, it looks like. He did a couple of the Blondie movies. So he was kind of all over the place.
It's back when you had those kind of directors, that did a little bit of everything here and there. Like William Bodine.
Yeah, right?
Did 500 movies or something like that, whatever. He did just worked forever and did everything.
And left us with two of the greatest horror westerns of all time.
Yes. I posted Jesse James Meets Frankenstein's Daughter.
Uh-huh.
I posted that one. I have not done Billy the Kid versus Dracula yet.
I don't know if that one's in the public domain, which seems weird.
Yeah, isn't that weird? I don't know. It's the same people and everything. And they play it on a double feature. I can confirm, Jesse James Meets Frankenstein's Daughter, definitely public domain.
Mm-hmm.
Billy the Kid versus Dracula, it looks like it's still under copyright. I don't know why. I have no idea.
Maybe
why.
somebody saw John Carradine's in it and snatched it up or something. I don't, that's the only thing that I can think is that.
Could be.
I don't know, but I love them both, so.
Oh, yeah. To this day, the end of Billy the Kid versus Dracula just has me rolling on the floor. Not to spoil anything, but everybody who's seen it is sure. Billy the Kid has Dracula cornered in a cave. Dracula standing there. The woman that Billy the Kid is after is laying there unconscious, I believe. Billy the Kid pulls his gun, shoots Dracula, of course has no effect, empties his gun into Dracula as Dracula starts approaching him. The gun is empty. He throws the gun at Dracula, clocks him in the head, and knocks him over backwards, and then puts a stake in his heart.
Sure.
Ow! What? The bullets, no effect. The gun itself, that kills him. And it's such a comedic thing, too, just the gun just bouncing off of his forehead.
Sure. Well, I'm sure William one-shot Bodine didn't bother to go in and shoot it a second time, so just take what
No, I'm sure he did.
Well, it's like the old Superman TV show, the bullets would bounce off his chest, but if somebody threw a gun at him, he'd duck.
Right.
It's like, why are you bothering dodging? You just...
Yeah, just stand there.
Yeah.
It can't hurt worse than the bullets. You're okay.
Back to the Bowery Boys.
Yes.
See, this happens, and because you've been listening, this happens. We start talking about one thing, and we're all over the map, and it's wonderful. So
this is a language we speak. So
I am fluent in Monster Kid. Yes,
there you go. That's right.
Now, the vampire in the film, Francine, I don't know much about her, and she really didn't do a lot of the classic vampire things. I mean, she was kind of vamping around, sure, but she didn't have fangs. There was no turning into a bat or anything like that. She just said she was a vampire and looked kind of sexy while she was doing it. Laura Mason is the actress. I don't know much about her. Do you have any familiarity with her?
No. Unlike a lot of the actors in these films, she didn't look familiar to me at all. I don't know of any other thing that she's done or that she's been in.
I was looking at her filmography, and I mean, she's got Queen of Outer Space in her credits somewhere, but I don't know how big of a role that was or what.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, she's listed as Venusian Girl, so hey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had one of those. Sure.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, right. Yeah. Monster-wise, she was kind of the weak link of the film because she never does anything vampirish.
Right.
You know, I mean, at one point she kind of caresses Satch's throat like she wants to take a bite, but she never does. You never see fangs.
Mm-hmm.
She never turns into a bat or see her in a coffin or anything like that. She's just this like attractive, slinky woman that supposedly wants either one or both of them for their blood. And it's only mentioned. They say she's a vampire once, and that's it.
Right.
Yeah. Amelia says that, to which Derek says, "Never use the V word." Never use that word again.
It was a nice time. I was like, okay, I can see that. I think, sure, that makes sense. You know, this movie does make its own kind of internal logical sense. I can't believe I'm saying that about this film, but it does have its own internal sense of logic. And once you get started with listeners, if you haven't seen this, the other Bowery Boys movies are great too, but this one's got all the monsters. So this is your in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I described this as a Sunday afternoon movie.
I think you did when we were chatting about it the other day on Facebook.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. I mean, out here, we got the Bowery Boys movies late morning, early afternoon on the weekends. You know, that's when they would play a lot of it. I'm sure that's when I first saw this movie, and it always kind of stuck with me. It's one of those, you know, you don't have to invest too much in it. Just sit back and watch the monsters play and laugh at it. And laugh at Slip mangling the language and Satch being hit with Slip's hat, you know.
He sits down in an electric chair on purpose. What does he call it? It's a space helmet. I've always wanted to try one of those. Or something.
Oh, yeah. Then he starts playing Space Cadet, right?
Oh, man.
Electric chair in the mad scientist lab, dissecting table, the brainograph or whatever it was to measure the brain power of Slip and Satch. You know, just every mad scientist, an old dark house kind of convention just kind of slopped together with the Bowery Boys laid on top of it.
Yeah, and it was good fun. And I know I told you that I was going to watch it last night. I actually waited and I watched it this morning when I got up because I wanted to have that morning monster movie feel, you know, and it was cool. It was perfect.
You could see watching that with a big bowl of cereal, right?
Oh, yeah. It would have been perfect for that.
Of course.
Would have been perfect. I don't think any of the Bowery Boys films in the public domain?
The Bowery Boys films, no, not that I know of. Spooks Run Wild is, because I've hosted it, and I'm pretty sure Ghosts on the Loose are. And those are East Side Kids films.
Right.
I did Spooks Run Wild. I did that one.
Okay.
With Ghosts. But I don't know about Ghosts on the Loose. As far as the Bowery Boys films, no. I checked this one out, and it is unfortunately, definitely not public domain.
It would be a blast to see this hosted or to host it. It's got so much fun.
I would love it. Yeah, this is exactly the kind of film that I would love hosting.
It's a good time. It's a good time, listeners. You got Lord Blood-Rah and me saying it's a definite thumbs up. So check it out if you haven't. And if you have, check it out again because it's just a blast.
Yeah, because there's always more monster craziness to see in it. Especially people like us that are deep fans of this kind of thing, we recognize that they are throwing everything in there. So it almost, it makes this film kind of more of a parody that every single horror convention is thrown in there.
Yeah.
And that in itself is funny.
Yeah. I mean, if you go to the Internet Movie Database to read their synopsis, it has one creepy butler, two mad scientists, a crazy old woman with a man-eating plant, a savage gorilla, an 8-foot-tall robot, and a vampirist. Boom. Yep. I'm sold.
That's the movie.
Honestly, you had me at two mad scientists, but still, the rest is great.
There you go. That's the movie. And the poster is wonderful. Slip and Satch, the robot, the gorilla, the weird kind of Mr. Hyde monster, and the vampire.
Yep.
I'm in.
This poster is actually one of the pieces of art that last year's Monster Bash used because they had a Bowery Boys theme at the Monster Bash. So I had gone in and kind of did my Photoshop thing to it to have it say the Bowery Boys meet the Monster Bash. And I'll probably do that again for Monster Kid Radio just because of what I do here. But the poster's fantastic. It's a great piece of artwork. I'd love to get my hands on a poster like this.
Oh, yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Oh, yeah. I've never been to a Monster Bash. I need to get out there one day.
Oh, man.
Need to. Yeah. I mean, like I say, San Francisco Bay Area, we have conventions. I mean, we have mostly comic book and pop culture conventions. But a friend of mine and I, Tom Wersch, who is the official archivist of Creature Features, of the Bob Wilkins Creature Features.
Oh, wow.
And I started a convention here, a classic horror convention called Creatures Con. And to our knowledge, it's in the Bay Area proper, it's the only classic horror convention. And we're small, we're on the smaller side. We've been doing it now this is our 9th year, and our 2nd year in a hotel. We were doing it in theater, so it was more of a theater show. But this is our 2nd year in the San Ramon Marriott, and it's really expanding. It's really expanding and taking off, and I think that we're filling a kind of classic horror and classic monster niche here in the Bay Area that no other convention is doing.
I will make sure there's a link in the show notes for this as well. It's creaturescon.com.
This year, Veronica Carlson is going to be a guest at the convention. We're thrilled to have her.
And if you can't be at Monster Bash to see the world premiere of House of the Gorgon, it will be playing as a West Coast premiere at Creatures Con with Josh Kennedy in attendance.
That's right, yeah. I was thrilled when Josh gave us the okay for that. And I've never met Veronica Carlson. My partner Tom has. He's worked with her before. But I'm really looking forward to meeting her and doing the Q&A panel with the movie and seeing the movie itself. That trailer is a blast.
I'm kind of biased, but I love the movie.
Sure.
I'd have to, for having watched it like 30 times while doing the sound effects. So.
Oh, I didn't know that. You worked on the film.
Yes, I did most of the sound effects and a good chunk of the sound editing.
Oh, that's great. All right.
Yeah, and I didn't get bored once while I was working on it. So I think that, cool. Again, I'm biased, but I dig it. And I think people are going to enjoy it as well. And Veronica Carlson is a sweetheart.
I've heard.
I can't wait for you to meet her, man. And she's just great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Right on. Well, I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes to this as well. And of course, your website. Was there anything else about the movie before we start wrapping up that we want to make sure we hit on?
Just, look for this one. It's of all the kind of creepy or horror monster related Bowery Boys films, I think this is easily the best one. The other ones are fun, but this one has everything in it, and it can't miss because of that. And by the way, of the 48 Bowery Boys movies, this was the highest grossing one.
Oh.
Yeah. This made the most money of all of the Bowery Boys movies.
Well, that's great to hear. I mean, monsters equal money, I guess.
Absolutely, right.
There you go.
Yeah, especially when you mix it with comedy in just the right way.
There's a delicate balance to be had, and I think this one rides it pretty well.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the monsters, as opposed to Epic Sylla Meet Frankenstein, where the monsters are straight, the monsters are the joke here, too. I mean, the entire movie is a series of jokes, and the monsters are all in on it.
Yeah, that man-eating tree.
I'm surprised they could have covered up a lot of the look of it by calling it a man-eating rubber plant, because it looked like rubber anyway.
Oh man, that would have been perfect.
Yeah, the man-eating rubber plant. Oh, okay, that solves the look of it. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
Well, we've mentioned your website, and is there anything in the near future we can let listeners to look out for from you?
Season 9 of my show, Lord Blood-Rah's Nerve-Wracking Theater, premieres in mid-March. So,
okay.
It's going to be all new episodes for a while, and they're going to be across the different platforms and stations that I'm on. That's coming up mid-March. Creatures Con, as I mentioned, is coming up July 7th at the San Ramon Marriott. Again, West Coast premiere of House of the Gorgon with Joshua Kennedy and Veronica Carlson. We're quite a different convention in that, like I said, we started out as a theater show. So a lot of our stuff is kind of uniquely theatrical. Tom Wersch and I will work on independent documentaries that we'll present at the convention and only at the convention. They're kind of digests of other conventions. Last year we did one on the 50th anniversary of Planet of the Apes and 50th anniversary of Night of the Living Dead. This year I'm doing one on Plan 9 from Outer Space because it's the 50th anniversary, and I'm approaching it from a kind of legends and legacies look. I'm going to talk about some of the legends that have cropped up around the movie, some true, some not, and the legacy of the film and how it affected low-budget filmmaking and other things like that. But being a theater show, we also do some other unique things like the Monster Movie Quiz, which is essentially a monster trivia game show that was started actually by Bob Wilkins. He did a TV special called the Bob Wilkins Super Horror Show back in sometime in the 70s, I believe. And as part of that, he did the Monster Movie Quiz, which is exactly what you think it is. It's a cheesy game show set up, and it's all about classic horror knowledge. Show an image on the screen or a clip or a sound clip and ask our panel of experts if they know the answer, run up the totals of the score, and then they will pick names of audience members, and the audience members win the prizes.
Oh, okay.
So it's fun, but it's set up exactly like a cheesy game show, and it's a lot of fun. That's some of the best fun I have on stage all year, is doing the Monster Movie Quiz. I love it. It's great. And then we also, another feature of Creatures Con is the Mega Chiller Theater, which is one movie, and I recruit a whole bunch of horror hosts to contribute bits to it. So it's one movie hosted by an entire host of horror hosts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then let's see, in the past we've had Mr. Lobo, Gordon Ball has come on. Our local newest incarnation of Creature Features, Vincent Bandal contributed a piece. We've put vintage pieces of Bob Wilkins in there. We'll also put some vintage pieces of classic horror hosts, like last year we put a Zachary bit in there as well.
Oh, wow.
So it's if you love horror hosts, Mega Chiller Theater is horror host overdose, and usually with a rare film that is always a surprise. We never announce what the film is before the convention. You got to come and check it out.
Well, there you go. Creatures Con sounds like something I need to add to my schedule at some point. I don't think it's in the cards this year, but now you got me putting that on my bucket list. I got to get there someday.
You'd be more than welcome. The doors are open for you. Come on down.
I appreciate you doing this. Listeners, I don't know if you know how long it's taken for me to finally pull the trigger and get Lord Blood-Rah on the show, because he reached out to me a while back, and then I started, it's on me that it took so long, but thank you for coming, man. I really appreciate it. This has been a blast, and we'll have you back sooner rather than later. How about that?
I would love it, and thank you. It was not just your fault. Both of our schedules kind of got tangled up, and various things were going on in our lives. So I'm glad to be here and thrilled to be on Monster Kid Radio. You are Monster Podcast royalty.
I don't know if you're the Lord around here. I mean, come on. I don't know about that.
I've been listening to you ever since the mail order zombie days. I mean,
oh man.
You've been out there doing it ever since, and we all appreciate it. I mean, honestly, you put a lot of hard work into this podcast, and we all appreciate it. It's great stuff.
I don't know what else to say other than thank you. And I'll probably end on that. Got on the high note. I like it.
Thank you.
LordBlood-Rah.com, and he spells his name, well, Lord, Lord, BLOODRAH.com, or just follow the link in the show notes. Congratulations to him for 10 years of horror hosting. That's amazing. Check out the website to learn all about where you can see him, what he's got coming up, all of that. Check it out and let him know that Monster Kid Radio sent you. I am going to have him back on the show, and Lord Blood-Rah, if you're listening, and we've got the listeners here as our witness, we're going to make it happen. And I promise we're not going to keep rescheduling it, and I'm not going to let it slip. We are going to have you back on the show here soon, so start thinking about a movie that you want to talk about. Thanks again, and listeners, Lord Blood-Rah, he's awesome. Although next time he's on the show, since he's a lord and all, I'm going to ask him to knight me. I'd love to be Sir Derek M. Cook of Monster Kid Radio. Just something to think about. Anyway, you might have noticed that we did not play Kenny's Famous Monsters of Filmland segment yet, and that's because, well, I'll let him tell you. Take it away, Kenny.
Hello there, Monster Kid Radio heads. This is Kenny with a look at Famous Monsters of Filmland. Today's film was never covered in Famous Monsters, which surprises me because those Bowery boys' malapropisms are similar to the goofy puns used throughout FM. So today we will have a special edition with Famous Monsters and Me. We had our first Radiohead contribution from Doug, who had this Famous Monsters memory to share with us. My first exposure to Famous Monsters of Filmland was in the spring of 1971, when I was 8 years old. For approximately 6 months, I had been watching the Universal Classics on Chicago's WGN Channel 9's Creature Features. The first movie I remember seeing was Dracula. I was hooked from the start. The show started at 10:30 p.m. and often ran a double feature. I rarely made it to the second feature. On a Sunday in April, my family stopped at the Super X drugstore in Ford City Mall, and I immediately went over to the aisle with comic books. As I rounded the corner, I saw a teenage boy looking at a magazine, and the page he had opened had a picture of Lon Chaney Jr. as the Mummy. Whoa! What is that? I need that! I pretended to look at some magazines on the bottom rack so I could look up at the cover and find out what I was seeing. I will never forget that cover. Those great big letters spelling out MONSTERS. The Mummy's Tomb was featured. I'm not sure I'd seen that one yet, but I loved the Mummy's Hand. I glanced at the rows and rows of magazines to find another copy of that issue. There wasn't one. I double-checked. Damn, he had the last copy. I knew exactly what to do. Just like Lugosi would, I willed that bastard to put the magazine back on the rack. He obeyed, and I picked it up, paid for it, and took it home. Thankfully, never to be the same. Doug's first FM was number 83 from April of 1971. The Mummy's Tomb cover Doug mentioned was painted by Beso Gogos. Along with the Mummy's Tomb film book, this issue featured When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth, Curse of Frankenstein, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, a look at all the actors who played Quasimodo, and the Karloff Lugosi classic, The Raven. It cost Doug all of 60 cents, and the first photo he saw was of Boris Karloff dressed like an evil Santa Claus coming out of the chimney. Thank you, Doug, for this Famous Monsters memory. Please don't be shy. Send us some more memories from how FM influenced and shaped your life. Don't forget, Monster Kids, we are looking for your Famous Monsters memories. Send a letter or a voicemail to Derek, and we will share them with all of the radio heads.
One second ago, it was human. Now the most monstrous creation of all, the return of the fly. Human beings are his guinea pigs, as once again man challenges the supreme power of the universe, then tries to hide from the world the monsters he has created. What is the terrible secret of his father's death, and how can he keep the world from knowing he is the son of the fly? The world cries out in terror at the return of the fly. You will also see the terrifying tale of a wedding night that turned into a nightmare. She married one of the alligator people. See it happen before your eyes. See the thing that will make your skin crawl. Don't miss the alligator people and the return of the fly.
In 1972, American TV networks canceled 12 TV shows for crimes they didn't commit. These shows were promptly forgotten by the public and faded into obscurity. Today, Chris Cooling researches these shows for a podcast. If there's a TV show that no one else remembers, and if you have earbuds, maybe you can listen to Forgotten TV.
It's coming. The world's craziest fun and fright show, the Lemon Grove Kids Meet the Monster. It's so scary, so crazy, we dare you to see it. We dare you to see the Lemon Grove Kids Meet the Monsters. The screen's funniest and wildest teenagers in the craziest fun and fright show you've ever seen. We'll see weird and frightening movie monsters, not only on the screen, but in the audience, alive and in person. See the horrifying Mad Mummy come to life and go into the audience to get you. We warn you, don't come if you're chicken. This show is not for sissies. If you're not afraid, be sure to see the world's craziest fun and fright show, the Lemon Grove Kids Meet the Monster. 1,001 laughs, thrills, and chills. In widescreen and Eastman color.
So that'll be the one we use.
We could keep going.
No, it's all right.
All right.
So we're just trying to sync up our audio because we're doing some feedback. I got Brenda in the house.
What? Go, Brenda. It's your birthday.
No. I'm not paying for the rights for that song.
No. Also, yeah.
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 So why haven't you been on the show the past few weeks, slacker?
Really? Really?
Well, I'm just saying. The listeners want to know.
You made me so sick.
I know. I'm a terrible, terrible partner.
I even did your show stuff for you.
You really did. And that was awesome.
You made me sick.
And people wrote in and said they appreciated it.
Aw.
But yeah, it made you sick.
I couldn't appreciate their appreciation because I was sick.
I'm sorry.
It's the kind of sick where you don't even feel guilty for missing work because you're just too out of it to care.
The thing is that when I'm sick, you need to control yourself. Just throwing yourself at me while I'm sick, of course you're going to catch something.
From now on, I'm just going to spray you with Lysol. If you get too close,
Okay. Anyway, hi.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. Brenda is here to read some emails. We got 2 emails and then 1 Facebook message sitting there. They've come in over the past few weeks. And if you're up for it, why don't we go ahead and read the first one?
Actually, I've decided I'm not up for this.
Okay, I'll do it. Hold on.
Hi, Derek and Brenda.
Hey.
Hi.
Oh, right
Ooh,
on. High five.
I didn't beat you to the punch.
We're a team, yo.
Uh-huh.
That's why you get sick.
Team
when I
that
get
gets sick together, sticks together?
I like that. We should put that on t-shirts.
No. Because I just think of like sticky mucus.
Why do you have to go there? What's wrong with you?
Because we were sick and
That's
there
true.
was so much mucus.
It's true. It's true. I think I referred to it as lung butter.
Oh, that's right. Why would you do that to me again?
Oh, because it's hilarious.
Oh, it's like it makes me want to crawl inside of myself, like just collapse inwards, like becoming a black hole of a person.
Man. Okay.
Night of the Demon has long been one of my top 10 favorite genre films. I envy you discovering it for the first time and hope you'll also find that it has amazing rewatch value.
It does.
So I loved episode 409. It's hard to say anything new about this wonderful movie, particularly as last year's incredible Blu-ray release from Indicator analyzes it in such loving detail. But I wonder how many listeners have seen or heard of an alternate adaptation of the source story, M.R. James's Casting of the Ruins?
Casting of the Ruins. I know that's the short story it's based on.
Did I say it ruins like
I think so.
Somebody cast down an old building?
That's why I said ruins to kind of follow up to
you're
maybe I was trying to cover for you and then you just highlighted that. Yeah.
Well, the minute you said it, I was like, rawr. That was so now you don't have to edit in a bleep of my curse word.
There we go. Casting the Ruins by M.R. James.
In 1979, Britain's ITV channel broadcast a version which retained the original title and starred imposing Scottish actor Ian Cuthbertson as Carswell. I was very young when I saw it, and my memories are vague, but I remember this TV play being extremely creepy. It's apparently available on DVD, and a brief preview is on YouTube, so I hope to track it down one day. And for yet another take on the story, elements of Sam Raimi's 2009 film Drag Me to Hell might start to seem very familiar. Your interview with Reba Clark was also amazing. As someone who knows nothing about music, but I know what I like, as they say, I found listening to his process absolutely fascinating. And the piece you played from House of the Gorgon, wow. The influence of the two Bernards, Herman and James, was delicious, while Reber's composition still succeeded in being very much its own animal. Loved it. So take care, both of you, and in the meantime, I will continue to savor the image of Derek and a platoon of monster kids from all over the country heading to Monster Bash in the awesome MKR tour bus, the ultimate road trip. Best wishes from the future, Al.
So Alistair Hughes is the man behind the book Infogothic, which
Yes,
was
beautiful.
also on the holiday gift guide last year, along with that Night of the Demon Blu-ray set. It's a fantastic book. If you haven't picked it up, listeners, I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes so you can order your own copy from Amazon. If you're here in the States. If you're elsewhere, like in New Zealand, you can get it directly from the publisher, which is Talos Publishing. And I know that he is working on a follow-up. I'm not going to say anything else other than I know it's in the works. And he's shared some artwork with me.
Yay.
And I'm all buzzy inside about it.
Well, my. So, first of all, I don't know if it stands out, but you've had to do a lot of editing of this already because I'm still in a place where little things still make me cough, and I am so sorry if it sounds weird. Honey, I'm sorry for making extra editing.
Oh, it's okay, baby. Don't worry about it.
Secondly, I remember your interview with Reber because you wouldn't stop talking about it. It went so well that you were just jazzed all day.
Did you purposely use a verb that's like a musical sounded verb to, because you were jazzed, because he's a musician?
Totally.
Okay.
No. No.
Reber's awesome. I've been wanting to get him on the show proper for a while, and the music's fantastic. I hope he doesn't mind, but I did clip that little bit of email from Al and send that directly to Reber just to kind of let him know he's got a fan down in New Zealand. So, yeah.
He's an international star.
There you go. There you go.
I don't know why I just sang that.
Because we're talking about a musician, see?
Sure.
That was jazzy.
I am sick enough still for the little things. I don't know.
So, M.R. James, casting the runes.
Yes, not the ruins.
I may have seen that thing he's talking about because not this past Christmas, but the Christmas before, I was invited out to somebody's house to watch some British ghost stories.
Mm-hmm.
And that might have been in that collection because in the Great Britain, and I guess maybe even here too in the States, ghost stories were a big thing for Christmas Eve.
Oh.
And this was something that was broadcast around Christmas, packaged as like a Christmas collection of spooky stories. And I think that might have been in there, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll track it down. I'll figure it out. I do want to see this version of 1979, though, if it's not it. Well, even if it is, I should watch it to double check. I have not read much M.R. James. I keep meaning to. I know he was a very, very important writer of the weird supernatural fiction, ghost story literature, that sort of thing. Night of the Demon is fantastic. Brenda, I think you might like it.
Oh.
I pick my battles when it comes to these types of movies, so I think you would like it. There are some ropey special effects, but I mean, that's just...
Ropey?
Ropey. For whatever reason, that's been my adjective lately.
It's
to describe
ropey
something that's a little...
special effects.
Yeah, ropey, meaning not that great. I don't know why.
That's odd.
I read it somewhere, heard it somewhere, and I've been using it lately. I just shrugged, which is perfect for an audio podcast. Anyway, the special effects are a little on the ropey side, but it's still solid. The performances are great, and the story is just spooky. Thanks for writing in, man. Really appreciate it. Love hearing from you, and good luck with the next book, because, oh boy. Oh boy.
Hi, Derek.
Hey.
Enjoyed your segment on monster movie soundtracks with Reber Clark in episode 409.
Excellent.
It was a nice surprise to hear you mention Elizabeth Lutens.
Sure.
Lutens?
He goes on and talks about it.
I investigated her music a few years ago because I was fascinated to discover a woman composer doing genre film soundtracks. As it turns out, Lutens was a very severe, combative, and uncompromising person who wrote, often, uncompromising music using the 12-tone serial techniques. I mean, take a look at her photo, which is attached, and you can see that this is not someone who suffers fools.
So this photo comes from Wikipedia, so if you just look her up on Wikipedia, you'll find that pic.
That said, her work on many genre films, both Hammer and Amicus, is terrific. One of my favorite is her title music for Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, with its creepy bass clarinet. Bass?
Bass.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's all about that bass.
As opposed to a fish.
Yes.
A fish clarinet.
Hey, she might have played that too. Who knows?
I knew it, but for some reason was questioning myself. Okay, with its creepy bass clarinet introduction.
You just did it. You just said bass clarinet.
Oh, gosh, my brain.
It's okay. This is why people download the show.
What? To listen to me be an idiot?
No, just because
not
you're
even
adorable.
Be sure about how to say bass.
You're a pretty idiot. It's okay. And Wednesday just attacked me for that.
That's what you get.
Okay, sorry.
She was sharpening those claws for something.
Yeah, no kidding.
Let's do this whole thing over.
Okay.
One of my favorites is her title music for Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, with its creepy bass clarinet introduction. Thankfully, lots of her music can be found on YouTube. Yep, most of it sounds abstract, but for some reason, I love that stuff. Though she did one film soundtrack as far back as 1948, she really didn't devote much time to film score composing until the 1960s, when she needed to work to pay the bills. Anyways, Lutens was a colorful character. She was one of the daughters of famous British architect Sir Edwin Lutyens, and during her childhood, the young philosopher Krishnamurti lived with the Lutyens for a while. By the way, she and a few other composers are highlighted in Hammer film scores and the musical avant-garde by David Huckvale, an interesting look at modern composers who wrote music for Hammer films.
I think that book's actually on the bookshelf over there. I think I've got that.
Well, why don't you look her up?
Well, I mean, they don't go... okay.
I just want to see a picture of her, because she does not suffer fools.
Well, it's on Wikipedia.
Not even lightly.
True. Probably wouldn't suffer you calling it a bass clarinet.
I'm sorry, my brain is slightly disconnected. Keep up the fabulous work. Love the diverse segments in each MKR episode. Wishing you all the best, Kurt. P.S. The most common pronunciation of Elizabeth's name is Lutchins, with an accent on the first syllable and the Y pronounced like a CH, from a couple of BBC documentaries. I did encounter one British radio show where the name was pronounced Lottiens, but I'm going to trust the BBC pronunciations. So the pronunciation was here this whole time, and you didn't let me...
I told you it was in there.
You said he'll talk about it later. I didn't realize he gave a whole guide to it.
Oh, I see.
So, Lutchins?
I'll take that. Sure.
Lutchins.
Sure.
What was I saying?
You said Luttiens. I mispronounced it horribly in the last episode. It was all over the place. She did the skull, and that's the music that I referenced last week. Unfortunately, Reber tracked it down, and he didn't really like it as much as I did. But, music is often,
very personal.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'm glad that Kurt digs it, and there is some of it available on YouTube. And I had forgotten, when I was talking about her work on the skull, that she had done Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, which is just some amazing title music. It really is awesome. So I will make sure there's a link in the show notes to pick up your copy of the book you mentioned. What was the title again? Do you still have it there?
Hammer Film Scores and the Musical Avant-Garde by David Huckvale.
Okay. So I'll make sure that's up, and then I'll also include a link to the Elizabeth Lutchins CD that I mentioned last week as well.
Oh, the Elizabeth Lutchins CD that you mentioned. Okay.
Yep. Thanks for writing in, Kurt.
All right, final message. Love the show. It's great to have a show to listen to that covers all my favorite stuff from when I was a kid. Just wanted to thank you guys for helping me remember Unico, the Island of Magic. That anime had been haunting my memories for years, and I could never remember the title. I bought the Blu-ray right after listening to your show and enjoyed watching it with my 6-year-old daughter. Yay! Love you guys. Keep up the good work. Rafi R.
Yeah, it was from Facebook. That was a Facebook message.
Yes.
And, when I got that message from him, I told him I had no idea it was on Blue. No idea it was ever issued on Blue.
Is that how you knew?
Yes.
And you got it?
Exactly. I immediately went looking for it. It's out of print here in the States, but I did find a used copy. So now we have Unico on Blu-ray. Thanks to Ralphie pointing me in the right direction.
That's amazing. And there are a couple of scenes from Unico, like when...
we mentioned the woofers and the tweeters before.
Right. He opens up his boxy earphones and there's a bird and a frog. This is woofer and his tweeter. But also when all of the people have been turned into stone and they're all marching to a song, and I forget what it is, but it's incredible. And Unico knows which one is the one. Is Unico a she or a he?
I was just about to ask you that.
I don't know.
I don't remember.
But Unico knows which one is the person it cares about because there's a flower sticking out of it. Because the person had been wearing a flower, maybe?
I guess we're just going to have to watch it.
And when they march, it wiggles.
We'll have to give it a watch.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what the Blu-ray quality is. Blu-ray quality.
Is it something that played all over the U.S. or just in Alaska for some reason?
So I saw it growing up in when I was younger, and I think the first time I saw it would have been when we lived in Tacoma, Washington, the Air Force Base there. There was a lot of, when I started thinking about this, there was a lot of Japanese animation that showed there, and it wasn't like manga like you see today, but it was a lot of mech, giant mechs, giant robots doing stuff. The only one I remember is one called Crimson Dynamo. And there was another one that had like wrist cutters on it, and whenever it would like use one of its powers or weapons, it would say its thing, wrist cutters, whatever. This was before I discovered Voltron. And I wish I could remember some of these. I remember Mom and Dad. My mom and Dad were like, this is too violent, you shouldn't be watching it. But I would still watch it anyway. And it was on during the day, typically on either Cinemax or HBO. Maybe we had Showtime. We had one of those.
Oh.
And HBO, we actually just called home box office. We didn't call it HBO then, for whatever reason. I guess what I'm going with this is that Washington is probably the closest state to Alaska. So if it was regional, I got it too.
Well,
obviously he knew about it.
Rafi knew about it too, right? So maybe it's regional?
Yeah.
Maybe Rafi lived on the West Coast?
Or
maybe they only played it on the coast.
They might have only played it on the coast. It might have been, Alaska. Is there a lot of military stuff up there? It might have been something that was brought in with, military there, because Tacoma is where my dad was stationed. So, McCord Air Force Base. So.
Not really in Juneau, but there, our bases were very close to Russia, if you didn't know.
Yeah, I hear you can see it from like the governor's backyard. Former governor's backyard.
Yes. But there are, yes.
Anyway, thanks for calling or writing that in. That was pretty cool. Yes. Really appreciate that. And I wanted to make sure you got that because of the Unico thing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yay.
I want to go back to something that Alistair mentioned, the Monster Kid Radio tour bus.
Right.
So that came up because I was talking on Facebook about how here in the very near future, I'll be putting some things on eBay to help pay for the trip.
Right.
Yeah, the Monster Bash trip is coming up.
When is it?
Mid-June. So, and I haven't bought airfare yet. The hotel room is secured, but the airfare has not been purchased yet.
I wonder if the prices just went way up because of the 737 situation.
I worry about that.
Yeah.
But watch me on Facebook or look me up on eBay. I think my name's just Brother D73 there on eBay. I'll be posting some things here in the very near future to help support that trip because I'm still unemployed and have not gotten much work doing audio editing. So gonna need some funds, man. But I'll tell you, if we make like tons of money, then yeah, I'll rent us a tour bus. Just saying. And I'll swing by and I'll pick people up along the way.
How far are you going?
To Pittsburgh. So it's got to be a lot of money.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of money. Other people with... Do you need a CDL driver's license?
Well, we'll have to pay for a driver. I'm not driving. I want to hang out in the back and party. And by party, I mean watch monster movies.
Yeah.
You know this is a pipe dream, right?
Yes, I do.
Not going to Monster Bash is a reality. Yes. The pipe dream is the tour bus. But that would be amazing, wouldn't it? Tell you what, any artists out there, and Alistair's one of them, I would love to see what you think the Monster Kid Radio tour bus would look like. Make me up like a demo drawing or like a concept drawing of what the tour bus would look like. I think it'd be
demands.
Fun. What's that?
He demands.
Well, I think
it.
I think it'd be fun.
And poor Alistair, you specifically called him out.
Well, he's an artist, and that's what gave me the idea. Mm-hmm. He's an artist.
So now he's obligated.
No, he is not obligated. Nobody is obligated. But I would love to see what you think the tour bus would look like. And I'll post them on the website.
Okay.
I don't mention this anywhere else, so let's mention it here. We have a voicemail line. What is it, Brenda?
503-479-5MKR, which that is 503-479-5657.
And our email address is monsterkidradio@gmail.com. If you have any feedback you want to share about the show, this episode or any of the previous 409 episodes, or just want to give us a shout out or tell Brenda that she's doing a great job, we'd love to hear from you.
You don't have to tell me I'm doing a great job or not. I sort of blew it this time.
No, you're not.
Is the Rondo Awards still going on?
Yeah, and I do mention that later.
Oh.
But the Rondos are coming. Who should they vote for, hon?
Whoever their heart desires. And they don't have to fill out every category. It can be a little overwhelming. So just pick the ones that you care about.
That's why I made that little video. Just follow the little video and follow the advice in the video. But they should vote for Kyle Yount for Hall of Fame. That's what we're going for. That's the big one.
Because he's retiring.
The Kaiju Cast.
Yes. But also, I know that information just from listening to you say it over and over and over again. And over.
Dr. Terror's House of Horrors. Horrors the screen has never before dared to depict. The terrifying horror of man killing vine with a human brain that creeps and kills. The terrifying horror of the dead, entombed for 200 years, that creeps its way back to terrorize the living. The terrifying horror of a dreaded man called Dr. Terror, who, with his deck of mystic cards, could foretell destiny. Dr. Terror's House of Horrors.
This may be what we've been listening for the past 4 years.
At last, contact with another planet, but it's really contact with nightmare. From out of this world, from out of the vast, frightening unknown, come the Terranauts.
Something came out of the sky, picked the building up bodily and tore it out of the ground.
One moment on solid from your Earth, the next kidnapped into an enemy world.
Give me that gun!
Sandy!
The whole human race will be destroyed or driven into caves like savages unless we can...
Unless we stop this enemy first. We must wait till we're within range.
You'll thrill to the most fantastic intergalactic battle ever. A warring asteroid challenged by a handful of humans 1 million miles out in space, determined to save the Earth from the Terranauts.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Monster Kid Radio. I want to thank everybody who was involved this week. So that's Jeff, Lord Blood-Rah, Kenny, my wife Brenda, Wednesday, who is patiently just watching me to finish recording so I can make her dinner. Just everybody involved. Couldn't do the show without you guys and gals. And you guys and gals, the listeners, you're the best part of the show. So thank you for listening to me ramble on about monster movies this week. There's something to be said about this tribe, this community that we've built up, and I just want to thank everybody from the bottom of my monster-loving heart. I appreciate all of your support over the years, and recently, a special shout-out real quick to Micah Harris, who, I swear, man, we got to get you back on the show very soon. The man without a body is just waiting for us to cover. Anyway, Micah gave me some personal advice regarding some writing issues that I've been having lately, and I just want to give him a special shout out. That happened this past week, as well as a big shout out to Chris and Dominique. They're part of my writing mastermind group, and well, they're very motivational and inspirational as well. And really, I don't think I would have considered so many of you friends if it wasn't for the show and you interact with me as much as I try to interact with you. So, you know what? I know I'm getting sappy. Let's go ahead and move on. Just big thanks. Anyway, something that you can do to help support the show is, well, just tell people about it. We want to get more listeners. We want to expand this amazing community that we have here. This tribe must grow. I want more listeners. I want to share the word of these classes classic monster movies with people. So to do that, all you got to do, well, obviously let people know about the website, monsterkidradio.net. But the biggest thing is just retweet the tweets and share the posts on Facebook. If you ever see somebody posting online that they're looking for a podcast to check out, well, you know where to send them, right? Also, big thanks to everybody who has cast a vote in this year's Rondo Awards. Monster Kid Radio is once again up for the Best Multimedia category. Of course, I'd appreciate your support there. Everybody on the ballot is so deserving of the recognition that the Rondos brings. I highly recommend you head over to rondoaward.com to check it out. In last week's episode, I kind of went off about the Rondo Awards, but I am going to just say again, if you haven't voted yet, please consider submitting the name Kyle Yount, that's Yount, for Monster Kid Hall of Fame. He is the man behind the Kaiju Cast, and, well, he's just flat out the man. Anyway, support the Rondo Awards and the Classic Horror Film Board. What they do is pretty darn important. What's coming up next week here on the show? You know, I've been really banging away at getting recordings under my virtual podcasting belt here, so I have enough content to share with you guys and gals on the weeks that, well, if I get sick again, that sort of thing. And one of the recordings that I just did that I'm very excited about was the recording I did with comic book creator Tad Galusha. Tad's been on the show before, but it's been a while, and, well, this time around, he comes riding a dinosaur or two when we talk about the movie Dinosaurus.
Rampaging in an unsuspecting world, living creatures from the dawn of time. What havoc will they wreak? What lives will they destroy? What depths of panic and terror will they create? Dinosaurus, the most amazing, astounding, astonishing adventure of them all, beyond anything your mind can imagine, never before seen on the screen.
Tad's got a new book coming out. I believe it's going to be available up at Emerald City Comic Con this weekend. Wish I could be there. I'm not going to be there. But if you go to the Oni Press table, you can pick up his new book, Cretaceous. What's Cretaceous? Well, pick it up. Trust me, Monster Kid Radio approves. But if you need a little bit more encouragement, come back next week because Tad and I are going to talk about that in addition to the film. We're also going to play something that I recorded with Steve Turek about an event that we're doing this month. So that's coming up too. Stay tuned for that. There's actually a possibility that I'm going to release that as a separate thing earlier in the week on the feed. So stay tuned. As long as you subscribe to Monster Kid Radio, you're going to get that, but that's coming. So don't freak out if you get something on a Monday or Tuesday or whenever I put it out. I really feel like 2019 is going to be a huge year for us here at MKR, and just I can't wait to see what happens. Okay. Anyway, let's go ahead and wrap up. I want to let you know that Monster Kid Radio is a registered service mark of Monster Kid Radio LLC. All original content of Monster Kid Radio by Monster Kid Radio LLC is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 3.0 Unported license. Of course, that does not apply to the song Spook-a-rama. That belongs to Jered Caywood. You can find him at jeredcaywood.bandcamp.com. He spells his first name Jered, and then Caywood is Caywood. .bandcamp.com and pick up the Monster Beach Surf Party album. Let them know that Monster Kid Radio sent you. My name is Derek M. Cook. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to everybody next week. Ciao.